Hi. So today I was going to talk about eating out at restaurants or getting delivery from restaurants. I personally am one of the worst people to go out to dinner with because there are a lot of things that I look for in the food that I want to eat, and most restaurants don't really fit the bill. So the things that I primarily want to avoid are eating vegetable oil, which unfortunately is the oil that most restaurants use to cook with, primarily because it's cheap. Places that have sugar in everything, which is a lot of restaurants, especially when it comes to vegetables. I think that that's a travesty if you just want to order steamed broccoli and it comes piled with sugar. What's the point? I also look for a good quality meat or fish, something like grass fed or wild caught, just because then I usually know that they're not going to do things like add sugar to everything and things like that. So when I'm either at home or if I'm traveling to different cities and I am looking for restaurants, a few of the things that I use to try to filter out and find something that might be the best are number one, farm to table. Farm to table restaurants are usually great. They usually use local and a lot of times organic ingredients. Grass fed is another good keyword. Wild caught fish, good or healthy salads, or organic. These are all, keywords that I'll use to either put into Google Maps or Yelp to try to find something in the area that might, fit my bill. So a few of the guidelines I'm going to give you. The main thing I do recommend is trying to beware of vegetable oil. This will be really hard to avoid, but I would avoid it as much as possible if you can. Chinese restaurants, for example, and even Thai, it's going to be very hard for you to get anything at one of these restaurants that is not in vegetable oil. Nothing that they cook or fry with is going to be really good oil. And that is most restaurants, but especially Chinese or Thai. A lot of times you can get something that's less fried, but at these it's really hard. If you are going to eat at one of these restaurants, I would try to stick to eating like a grilled meat or a grilled fish and a vegetable, just to try to limit it a little bit. Another thing in general at restaurants that are pretty safe to eat is are salads. The one thing that I will caution you about is try to use a dressing that's, just olive oil and vinegar, primarily because most vinaigrettes are going to have those bad fats in them. Usually canola oil is what vinaigrettes use to, again, keep the price down. Another thing that you can do is if there's a salad dressing that you really like, is you could potentially just bring your own. Ask them for a salad and get the dressing on the side and then kind of sneak it out and put it on your salad when you're there. It really depends on how vigilant you want to be. But that's one thing to do. I would, when it comes to salads, recommend trying to, get something that's more of a mixed green kind of thing rather than, iceberg lettuce, because there's not going to be much nutritional value there. Sushi is another place that I will sometimes go, and it's probably one of my favorite places to go, but it really depends on what the menu is like at the sushi restaurant. Raw fish is usually a no-no for pregnancy, and I usually try to stick to that. There are a lot of restaurants that do have good cooked sushi options. So eel is one of my favorite things to get at a sushi restaurant. They're usually in dragon rolls, and eel is always cooked. You could also get, sashimi. They'll have different types of egg or eel or, cooked salmon. You can stick to California rolls. The one thing when it comes to cooked rolls that I would try to stay away from a little bit is tempura, just because, again, that's going to be fried, and fried food tends to be a little bit more toxic. If you do choose to eat raw fish, one of the ways to prevent any toxins from getting in your food is with activated charcoal. So after the meal, you could take, a tablespoon or so of activated charcoal, and that will help. And this kind of goes for anything. If you suspect that you have eaten something toxic, it can basically absorb all the toxins and flush it out of your body. You do need to make sure that you are going to the bathroom and make sure you're basically not constipated. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot harder for the toxins to get out, and you don't want that stuff sticking in your body. As I mentioned before, grilled salmon is not grilled, but cooked salmon at sushi restaurants is pretty good. And I would say grilled salmon in general, or grilled fish in general, is pretty safe if you're going to get that at restaurants. The primary thing that I will warn you against if you're going to do this is genetically modified salmon is a thing now, and they are being released first in restaurants. You do not want to experiment with genetically modified salmon. And the restaurant is not going to advertise that on the menu. Farmed salmon isn't great for you either, but one of those is usually going to be what's offered at places. So when it comes to salmon, I would recommend especially sticking to wild caught fish. I mean, that's a great thing to do for any restaurant, but I would say especially salmon, because you definitely want to avoid the genetically modified fish. If it's too expensive or it's just not available in your area, one of the things that I think is better, or not necessarily better, but more safe to eat farmed is shrimp. So if you wanted to get shrimp grilled, that's usually a great option at restaurants as well. If you find a good steakhouse, that's usually pretty safe. You can usually get a really good steak plus a vegetable or a couple of vegetables and a salad. It might be a little bit more expensive. And again, ideally you would do grass-fed, but if you can't do that, just, stick to a meat and a vegetable, maybe some mashed potatoes as a treat, and that could be a great dinner going out. Pizza, that's another popular going out food. It's not necessarily great because there's really no nutritional value, but in my opinion, it's almost better than something like Chinese or Thai or fried food that's much more likely to be full of these oxidized fats, which are both toxic and bad for you, rather than just, a pizza, which you could potentially put vegetables on or have a salad with. So I would almost recommend having pizza over something like General Tso's chicken at a Chinese restaurant. My family was recently in town and they actually were going to some Vietnamese restaurant. And I looked at the menu, and one great option was, a spring roll, which was just vegetables and shrimp wrapped in a thin rice wrap. I probably never would have thought to just go to a deli to get something like this. But that was a really great option that was super cheap. I wouldn't say it was necessarily filling and great, but I didn't expect that. So you can always usually find something if you look, but I would recommend just trying to stay away from it as much as you can, the vegetable oils, the high sugar, and just trying to find a healthier place in general that gives you a number of different options. And as always, it is usually much better to eat from home and cook your own food, but sometimes it's a treat to go out and, go with it. Just try to eat as best as you can. So that's it for my tip for today. I hope this was helpful, and if you enjoy getting these and want to get more, please subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye.